Welcome to She Can, where women lead by example. And why is that so important for us to be role models and mentors? Because it's so much easier to be what you can see. I am delighted to be talking to Alenka Kyslik today. Alenka, welcome to She Can. If you
Thank you for having
if you love our conversations, like and subscribe, and we will get straight into it. Alenka, tell us a little bit more about yourself. You're the founder of the SAHA Collective, a matchmaking platform for your health, matching you with holistic health providers. So I love that description. You have a prototype launching soon. You are in full-time employment while you're also launching SAHA. So I know that you are starting or launching SAHA because of a private health battle that has been going on, for which reason you are starting this new journey as an entrepreneur, launching a startup. Tell us more about that journey and how you get to be launching SAHA Collective.
Yeah, so my journey starts as I think most when we start getting into this healing journey. We realize it actually started a lot longer before the actual crucible moment, if you will. Um, so I am an eldest daughter. I am the child of immigrants. I was the first person in my family to graduate from university. So these were all things I will say followed closely by my mother, which I'm very proud of her for. Um, but I think these are all things that got me in some ways to where I am today. And I think when I say some ways, I mean the other piece of that is that I spent a decade in the corporate world, and at that point, I burnt out really horribly. Um, and it wasn't now I kind of can see 2020 what happened and why it happened. But at the time, I just felt incredibly fatigued. I didn't have any motivation for work. I had shooting pain in my jaw, which I found out was from grinding my teeth. I had cracked a tooth from grinding my teeth. I was constantly trying to find ways to escape my day-to-day job. Um, and so from some people's viewpoint, my life was really exciting because I was doing all of these things. But for me, I was trying to find joy, that I just wasn't finding. And then my body basically forced me to quit my job because I couldn't function. I couldn't work. And I wasn't willing to lose more of my teeth. Because I love food and that's important to me. And so I ended up quitting my job. And a year later, I stepped off a curb and I tore up my ankle to shreds. The MRI was, I knew it was bad, but the MRI really showed it. And I think what was interesting to me is going through that journey of, I did do everything the doctor said, and then I still wasn't getting better. In fact, I was re-injuring. I learned that like I needed to tune into my body. And there was a lot of holistic providers and practitioners that kind of like helped me along the way, gave me little tidbits that really helped refocus. And now everything in my life has changed from the way I eat, the way I stand, the way I walk, the people I surround myself with, the fact that I will go have a nap if I need to, as opposed to forcing myself and pushing it through. And it's meant that I have a much more balanced and happy and now very purposeful life because all of those things led me to saying, you know what, this is not okay. That if you don't know someone who knows someone, you can't find answers. Like that's not an okay world to live in. And so I'm building this matchmaking platform to help people find answers when they felt like they've, gone through all of the options they could possibly have.
Alenka, tell us a little bit more about those insights. What did you learn? How did you come back from a burnout? What practices did you find really supporting you? And then also expand a little bit on exactly how you see Saha Collective to work. Is this a California-based thing? Is this a nationwide thing? How do you see it work?
Yeah. So SAHA is actually a worldwide thing, and we limit results based on time zone overlap as well as zip code or postal code if it's in person. I say that first because that's the easiest answer, and then we'll dive into
Yeah.
the other pieces. So, um, the learnings for me were very complex and it took time. So there wasn't like one magic pill that fixed everything. It was a stacking effect of many, many learnings. And I like to say to people, it took me, I would say this started probably in my teenage years. So let's say it took me 15 years plus to get to the point where I was in that horrible burnout. It's change doesn't happen overnight, right? Like most of us have whatever it is we're going through, it's been either an entire lifetime or at least a few years that it's taken us to get to this point. So to make change that's sustainable, it's going to take a lot of time to unravel habits and make changes in our lives. And being patient with ourselves is the most difficult thing. I think one tangible piece that I really have stuck to is getting rid of the word should in my dialogue in my head and what I say out loud. So in the way I speak to myself, I should do this thing today. No, do I have the energy to? Do I have the ability to? Is this the right thing to do today? Or like the dishes will be fine tomorrow, but I could use that extra half hour of sleep. Like those types of things is really getting rid of should and getting to be more kind in how I speak to myself and being more curious and open to like understanding what's going on instead of forcing myself and pushing through. And I will say that I have become more productive as a human and happier than I have ever been by giving myself that space. Because ultimately, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And we treat life as a sprint, and then we wonder why we're not feeling great.
Alenka, so tell us a little bit on how you're making it work. You have a full-time job, you're bootstrapping this, you're launching, I believe, either in December, beginning of the new year. So tell us a little bit on how you can do both and how that works, because that is not a
Yeah.
true story. It's the story of many women entrepreneurs or many entrepreneurs, full stop.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I have made some drastic changes in my life. And so I think a lot of people like to look at like, oh my goodness, that person's so successful. That's wonderful. And it is wonderful. But I think we often glaze over the sacrifices that were made to get there. And so for me, some of the things that has looked like, so it is currently 8:16 for me this morning. I have already been on call since 7 a.m. And it meant that I need to be in bed just after 10 p.m. That is something that I do almost every night. I will say I see my friends and do social activities maybe twice a week, not usually more than that because I'm working as soon as I'm done my day job, I work a full evening on SAHA. I also work on the weekends. I do try to make one day a week where I don't work super hard or I'm working like an hour or two and then I do a lot of rest, socialization, whatever it is. I think it for me is a constant striving of finding balance in my energy levels between, some days will be really exhausting with my day job, and then I will focus on things that don't require so much energy and creativity for Saha. I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think everyone needs to learn what makes the most sense for them and what works for them, and to understand what you're striving for and what your goal is in the next 3 to 6 months to a year so that you're building towards that instead of getting stuck up in the minutia. And then also for me, building tools that automate things is huge. So I'm building out a CRM system right now. So that's a customer relationship management tool that does like automated emails, et cetera. So I'm not having to follow up with people. And you can do it in a really human way. It doesn't have to feel like a robot. But I think that allows you to scale what you're building in a way that it's just like there's only so many hours.
It's just so true. Alenka, so make us understand how this is going to work. There is now a listener that feels they're really falling through the cracks. They're not getting better with whatever it may be. They've heard about Saha. They go on the website or the app. How is it going to work?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we're launching in December. So you go onto the website and you fill out right now it's a short form. We're going to do some cool things later on that I can talk about. But right now it's a short form that fills out typical things like your symptoms, but you can also optionally add things like your lived experiences. So that can include like if you have children, if if you're divorced, if you've gone through PTSD, you know, there's lots of different things that are listed there, as well as ethnicity, political views, and religious beliefs. And we pair that in as well as we kind of get an understanding of where you're at in terms of your healing. Do you just need relief? Are you ready to find the root causes? Are you ready to commit to doing the work, etc.? Because you know, if you're not ready to change everything about your life, then matching you with someone like that is not helpful. And then we also have a beliefs or value sliding scale. So if we say on one end there's conventional, so things like acupuncture, functional medicine, chiropractic, et cetera. And then on the other side, we call it open to the universe. And so that's things like Reiki, craniosacral, meditation, et cetera. And that matters because if you're not aligned with the provider, then you know it doesn't feel good for either side. So we use all of those things. And I say it's like this complex matchmaking on the back end. All you do is fill out a couple questions. It's very easy. And then you'll get a results page. And that results page will give you up to 10 different providers that can help you, and not just providers, but specific services that those providers offer. Because a lot of these people will have like 5, 10 different things that they offer. And when you get to their page, you don't know where to start. So it's a specific service. And then you'll be able to go on the prototype and book directly with the provider on their own website or booking link, because we are building up the full version in 2025 that will allow you to do everything on the platform. But I need to start with something small first.
Yeah. So how will you make money, Alenka?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not going to make money in the prototype. And the point of the prototype is to build traction, which is a fancy word that people use in the investment world to basically see like, do people care? Do people care about what you're building? Is it of value? Are you getting product market fit? And I needed to start with something because it's not it does cost money to build technology, even though it's humans building it. It's not like manufacturing. It is arguably sometimes more expensive in a lot of ways, right? I can't just build like create a bottle of my product. Like it's much more complex than that. So in 2025, when we launch the full version of the product, we are offering it in two ways. So we will offer it as a benefit for employers to offer their employees,
Yeah.
in addition to whatever healthcare that they provide. So imagine you could get at home massages or a Pilates class, acupuncture, all of those things. The complaint people have that you know the good therapists aren't included in their insurance. You know, we have the good therapists. So as an example, how we're going to make money is it will be a transaction fee based on each appointment booked.
Mhm.
So every transaction that goes through the platform will have a transaction fee. A portion of that will go towards a fund that will be available for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford services. So we want to make sure that, you know, this is accessible to all. So yeah, it'll be available for employees from their employers for those that sign up, and then also available to the public.
Alenka, it sounds amazing. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you face now as a new entrepreneur trying to launch this prototype. What are the things that really you find really hard right now?
Yeah, I think time is really hard because I'm trying to balance to full transparency. I cracked my tooth again. I just got the crown replaced, and that was a really harsh moment. I know the conversation that sparked it. I know what happened, which is, you know, much better than a few years ago when I didn't. But that has been really hard, I think. The other thing is like I am an immigrant twice. My parents, I was born of my parents and they were immigrants, and now I'm an immigrant in the US. And I say this saying that I'm not someone who has a trust fund. I am not independently wealthy. I am making a lot of sacrifices in order to be able to afford to pay for this. And the reason I say that this is tough is because this is going to cost a significant amount of money to get live. And so I have to be really creative about how that works and how it works while keeping the integrity of what I'm building, and also not wasting a lot of time trying to raise capital, because it can take like a year sometime to raise capital for something. And I wasn't willing to wait for a lot of different reasons. But I think it's really tough. I think a lot of people will tell you you should do one thing or another. And for me, what has been a big learning lesson is to check in with myself and say, okay, that person gave me that advice. Does it feel right with what I'm building and why I'm building? Does it feel like it's aligned with what I'm doing. Like someone tried to sell me on a $7,000 podcast creation course. And I was like, well, that might be really helpful, but is that the best use of my resources right now? Both time and money. And it just didn't feel right. And it's not to say that that isn't right for someone else, but I think it's, we get a lot of advice and there's a lot of people who their entire business is focusing on first time entrepreneurs and making money off of them. And some of them are absolutely super incredible and helpful, and others you really have to pick and choose. And so I think it's really about being careful about the money that you're spending, being careful about your time and also your energy, because there's can be a lot of people that or interactions you might have that might be draining. Like I'm very careful about what type of networking events I go to because um, some of them can be amazing and I've had so many incredible experiences, and others can be very competitive, but not in ways that are helpful, in ways that I find I'm exhausted for days afterwards, right? So, I mean, I could talk about this at length, but those are some things that I can think of off the top of my head.
And it resonates deeply with me, and I've had the same experiences. Alenka, so give some top tips to our listeners of if they feel that they're falling through the cracks. What top tips would you give them? Where do you start?
Yeah, I think the biggest and honestly the hardest thing is to start with like giving yourself a moment and like pay attention to what's going on in your body. And like right now, if I do that, my lower back is not very happy with me. My toes are cold because I didn't put on socks today. But like those things are, but if you kind of do that on a regular basis, you start to see trends in your own body. And that means that you can then explain that to whoever you go to. Because if you're not able to slow down, it's really hard to explain that to someone. And not to say that those amazing experts aren't there. Some of them are so good at pulling out more information out of you, and they will see what you don't see, which is why we go see experts, right? They can see something we don't aren't aware of, but it gives a starting point. And more importantly, it also gives you the ability to start to see, okay, I'm feeling this way. And without judging, you can then think, okay, what happened? What conversation did I have today? Who did I interact with? What piece of news did I get? Like yesterday, I had a piece of news from my personal life that was really heavy. And then I went on an Instagram live with a provider, and it was lovely. And we had a great conversation. I went to edit the content, and I was like, I look miserable and I feel horrible about this. But that's just, there was something that was really weighing on my heart. And so I think it's really important to check in with yourself and to really be kind and non-judgmental about that check-in. And that will kind of help you move forward and be able to communicate your needs.
Alenka, so what do you feel you're most proud of to date?
I am, I think the biggest thing, and a lot of us feel this, I came up with this concept last summer and I spent 6 months being terrified of it.
Mm.
Um, and being really like overwhelmed by the concept of it and overwhelmed. It was imposter syndrome at its finest. And like doing brainstorming, thinking about things, but really like the idea of putting my heart out there in what I'm building was really scary. And I think that then came to light in being really uncomfortable on camera and terrified of doing, recordings like this. And it took a lot of introspection and forgiveness and unraveling of beliefs that I had. And I think I'm really proud of myself to be able to be in a place where I'm excited to talk and I feel much more comfortable on camera. Um, and I think that imposter syndrome and just diving in and being okay with not knowing the outcome, being okay with knowing that this is the place I'm meant to be right now, and I'm, doing my best to solve for this problem. And I don't know exactly what this is going to look like, and this might shift and turn for someone who was used to being in control of so many things and being able to like plan to the minute what her vacations were 10 years ago, right? This is a very different human, and I'm very grateful.
Alenka, so tell us exactly really what you're looking for and the help that you need in the next year or two.
Yeah, so the biggest ask I think I can put out there is we want to make this accessible, this platform to be accessible. And one of the best ways to do that is to work directly with companies to offer this as a benefit to their employees. We know that chronic stress is a really big deal right now. We know that a lot of employees are having a hard time for many reasons, right? It can be outside of work, but then it can reflect on their work. And so our goal is to offer this to employers to offer as a benefit to their employees. So if you have any introductions to companies that might be interested in doing that, if you yourself are interested, I would love for you to reach out to me so that we can work to give your employees, something that can actually help them on a very individualized level.
So give us your really big vision. What are your plans and goals? If in your ideal scenario and everything will happen as you're sort of planning it, what will this look like in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, so I envision this looking like the place that people go to, not in, if you've broken a bone, but like in other situations, right? Where you've tried a few things and you just aren't finding answers. SAHA would be the place that you go to find practitioners. I see it being a trusted resource. So where you know that the providers have been vetted, that we do regular background checks, because believe it or not, that is not standard. I envision a place where we are able to provide resources, that we're able to run scientific studies in partnership with universities on a lot of these things that have not been studied, because we will have the numbers to be able to do that. I see it as a place where providers are able to do what they love doing and are fully supported, both by helping them run the business side, integrating things like tax management, potentially health insurance for the providers, because a lot of these don't have that, especially in the US, and just making it a place where people feel like they are heard, feel like they are understood, not alienated. I think that is so important in the human experience, that we often feel alone. And in so many of these things, it's what you're going through is so common, but it's just been so taboo to speak about for whatever reason, that it doesn't, it means that you feel like you're struggling, and you don't need to be. You could have someone else there for you. I mean, those are some of the things. There's more, but that's kind of that's the small level of my vision.
It sounds like a proper revolution already, Alenka. So I'm excited
Yes.
for you. And I'm
Yeah.
excited that you put this big vision out there and that you're able to voice it and that you know what it is, because that gives inspiration and motivation to other, young women who have ideas and potentially feel this, they're holding themselves back. And in order for us to step into the moment where we are able to play our bigger game, that's when this is changing. And you have definitely changed that, and you're able to put that out into the world very confidently, which is amazing. How do you want what do you want people to take away from your story?
I think the biggest piece that I've had to unlearn is you are not helpless for asking for help.
Hmm.
I think that is a really big piece to me that has changed everything, because I cannot do what I'm doing without the help of others, right? It's not just me, it's an entire community that is uplifting this concept and making it a reality. And I think the other thing specifically for people who are or want to be entrepreneurs is your mission stronger than your fear? And that's something I've come back to over and over again, especially when I was getting over being comfortable on camera. Excuse me, that I had anything that I was too scared to do, or like, should I submit my name for, this to be interviewed, or to should I go to this event? Should I reach out to this person? And every single time when I was scared to do it, would say, is my mission and the reason why I'm doing that stronger than the fear that I have of doing it? And it was always absolutely yes.
Yeah. Alenka, thank you so much for talking to us, for introducing us to SAHA that we will be looking out for. It's a much needed tool in our healthcare all over the world. And I'm super excited for you to be on this journey and to show all our young women and women everywhere that this is doable and that you can hold these big visions and step by step execute them to then have a product that will support others.